getting to the issue I wanted to talk about, Tanisha, I think I mentioned last year, although it's hard to know which year it was, but certainly one of the years, I came to the Parsha Vayechi, and it's really interesting. Not happy about this. It's certainly not. It's never a good thing when a person leaves the school. But I gave a shmooze about the power of Torah. I spoke about the bracha that Yaakov Avinu gave to his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh. And I commented that the Mefarshim talk about why is it that Yaakov switched his hands. Why did he not do the typical Yisimcha Lakim K'Manasseh K'Ephraim? That should be the standard statement that we make. It was very moving when this past senior Shabbos, one of the seniors came over to me. It was very, very nice. Asked me for a bracha on Friday night. Put my hands on his head. I said, Yisimcha Kim K'Ephraim B'Chanasha. Okay, so why? Why not do it standard? Yisimcha Kim K'Manasseh K'Ephraim. Manasseh was a Bechor. And he was certainly no slouch. He's a great person, Manasseh. And when I spoke about this some years ago, it was unfortunate that I got I'm not sure if it was an email or a phone call or whatever, that my son, Rabbi, will no longer be attending Valley Torah High School. We're pulling him out. And any school that promotes the notion that you are promoting with this shmooze is a school my son cannot attend. So it happens. But just because that could happen, I really don't think it's going to happen here, Baruch Hashem. But you could have that kind of a mentality. It doesn't mean that we can't and we don't have to tell you the truth. Tell the emes of what our Chazal teach us. And it's certainly something that we need to reinforce, because as we approach and as the years of adulthood that you guys are fast approaching, whether you're a senior and it's really right around the corner, or even as a freshman, trust me, the 4 years go by very quickly. We have to have a vision of what Torah is about and what Klal Yisrael is about. What our whole relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all about. And what I shared then, what I would like to share now, Rabbi, say, is this notion that Yisimcha Lakim K'Ephraim U'Manasseh, because really what Ephraim and Manasseh represent, and really that sort of segues into Yisachar Zavulun as well later on in the Parsha. That at the end of the day, yes, you need Ephraims in the world and Manassehs in the world. And Manasseh was somebody who was the viceroy of Egypt's sidekick, so to speak. He was his right-hand man. Manasseh was right there with Yosef running Mitzrayim. And he was a tzaddik in his own right. And he was a tremendous leader and a tremendous person. He was a man who was living in Mitzrayim, yet he was still Manasseh and Ephraim. These were two people who Yaakov Avinu understood. These are people that we can bless, the children of the Jewish people for all of the generations. Abiyas HaMashiach, this is a bracha we're going to say. These were two amazing people. But at the end of the day, they chose different avenues. I'm not putting down one versus the other. Listen carefully. I'm not putting Chas v'Shalom one down. And not everyone can take the Ephraim path, and not everyone can take the Manasseh path. There are different people with different attitudes and different inclinations and different talents. And that's why we have 12 tribes. This Parsha really reinforces the notion with the 12 Shvatim and each one getting their specific bracha from Yaakov Avinu. Reinforces the notion that we are not the same. And there are many, many ways to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is not to say one is worse in a negative way, Chas v'Shalom, but there is something that we have to understand what stands at the preeminent position of Klal Yisrael. What is the ultimate? What is Klal Yisrael most thirsting for and the most in need of? What stands at the ultimate level of what we should be aspiring to if we can, if it's possible? And the answer is it's Ephraim. Ephraim, who was the Yoshev Olam, so to speak, of his generation. The Ephraim who, despite the fact that he was in Mitzrayim, spent his time learning Torah. And he was immersed in that aspect, in that avenue of spiritual service. Manasseh was great. Manasseh was wonderful, and there are many Manassehs out there in the world who are changing the world in their particular way. And we see them. We see them in our generation. In every generation there are Manassehs. And we heard about them yesterday in that very moving video. To see so many people who are involved in chasadim and making sure Klal Yisrael is taken care of in that realm. whether it's the person who developed Hatzalah, or the person who developed all different types of chasadim. There's so many things that in the last 50 years we've seen people at the cutting edge of so many different avenues of chesed. The Chai Lifelines and the Etes and all the other different, and look at the chasadim that are going on in Klal Yisrael. We're amazing people. We need these people. They make a difference in the world. And we need the Ben Shapiros to stand up and speak the truth with a Yamakon on national TV. We need those people. They're very important. But when you give a bracha defining the essence of Klal Yisrael, Rabbi say, let us not kid ourselves. Let us understand what exactly this world is about. It's hard for us to be moved when Rabbi Byron speaks about Rabbi Leib Steinman, who no longer is here, one of the Gedolei Yisrael who passed away recently. It's hard to have our hearts stirred when, okay, some old man over 100 years old passes away in Bnei Brak. What's the big tumult? Why do 500,000 people show up and walk the streets miles in Bnei Brak? Miles and miles of Klal Yisrael. Stop and think. 500,000 people. Even if the numbers are a little bit off. It's incredible. Because at the heart of Klal Yisrael we understand, and it wasn't just yeshiva guys who were there. Klal Yisrael was there. Because Klal Yisrael understood and understands. And we need to understand, as much as we're far away from the Bnei Brak of the world and the Mokamos HaTorah that sort of stand as the centerpiece of Klal Yisrael's survival and existence. Rabbi said we need to know that's really where the action is. That's really where the ultimate crown of Klal Yisrael is at. Is at the place with his Torah, with his greatness, with his Kedusha, where there's a focus on sitting in that Beis Medrash, developing that Chachma. All the people, it's amazing, you hear it from kids all the time, you hear it from adults all the time. What do you have to, it's okay, you can be, of course you can be a frum doctor, of course that's great. I go to any wedding. Last night I was at a wedding. I probably bumped into 20 frum doctors along the way, just in a matter of minutes. It's all wonderful. Who's going to put down a frum doctor? Who's going to put down a person who's doing his thing, is supporting his family, becoming a professional, and being a frum person, learning every day and doing mitzvahs? Who's going to put that down? Chas v'shalom. But at the end of the day, to know what stands as the ultimate. If somebody's learning, if somebody's growing, somebody's becoming a leader in Klal Yisrael, it's not about what everybody has to be. Why do people get so defensive? I don't get that. The immediate reaction. I could be. Of course you could be. It's not the issue what you could be, what you can't be. The issue is what should a person aspire to if they could be. Somebody could be a Gadol B'Yisrael. Somebody could be one of the great leaders and has a mind to be able to develop himself into some really dynamic force within the Jewish people. To lead his congregation, to be a major force in the shul, to move families to a higher level, to teach Torah on a very deep and meaningful level, to be a Rebbe in the 6th grade in elementary school. You can look back and everyone here has their experiences in elementary school. Is it a small thing to be a teacher of Torah? Of course not. These are amazing things. Let's not get defensive when we hear the concept. Why do we have to? People have to sort of get agitated. Why are we saying that? Maybe are we talking to each person and are we really asking ourselves? And maybe that's part of it. I'm not here to tell anybody what they should be doing. But I guess ultimately we do have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what is my purpose in life? Maybe not today, maybe not right now, because you are young. But let's not forget, Rabbi said, this is the ultimate. Yisimcha Elokim k'Ephraim u'Manasseh. Where Torah stands in terms of the significance in Klal Yisrael, what it means to Klal Yisrael. I've said certainly a number of times over the years, hearing Rav Brevda say the words right mamish about 30 feet from where I'm standing right now. And he spoke to the Beis Medrash boys years ago. We had a Beis Medrash, good old days when we had a Beis Medrash here. And the Beis Medrash was sitting there listening to a shmuz from Rav Brevda. That's how one of the great Bali Musar passed away, probably about 5 to 10 years ago. And he spoke about the fact that he heard a shmuz from Oli Apiyan. He heard the words coming out of his mouth. The great Baal Musar was a Talmud of the Chavetz Chaim. And he said the words about, I'll just say very quickly because I'm not sure, maybe I shared it with you recently, I don't remember, but he said the words that when a person sits, we have no idea of the power of Torah, and he said over the words of Chaim Volozhin, who was a Talmud of the Gra. So here you have Rav Brevda, who heard it from Oli Apiyan, who is saying over the words of Chaim Volozhin, who was a student of the Gra, and he's saying that when a Jew learns Torah, the power that Torah has, the impact that it has on people and on the world, we have no idea. He says you can have a guy who is sitting in his bedroom 2 o'clock in the morning in someplace in Slobodka or someplace in Telz, far away from Berlin. And you have a father who's going into the hospital with his wife to deliver a baby, and everything is exciting. All of a sudden they hear the tragic news, or the potentially tragic news that your wife has internal bleeding. We're not sure if if the child's going to survive. We don't know if your wife's going to survive. And here he was in a euphoric state, well, having a baby. Now all of a sudden the world is getting dark on him. He doesn't know what to do. And he's pacing the floors 2 o'clock in the morning in Berlin. And little does he realize that 500 miles away there's this little shtetl somewhere in Poland or in Lithuania. And there's a fellow who made a commitment to be learning 10 minutes before he goes to sleep every night. And he's battling because he just came back from a wedding and he's super tired and he can't, and he was about to fall asleep. He put his head on the pillow and he's so exhausted. He just realized, oh my gosh, my commitment, 10 minutes before I go to sleep. And of course the Torah gets in right away. Come on, it's okay, don't worry about it. Just go to sleep. You'll fulfill your commitment tomorrow. But I made a commitment every night. Every night, Rosh Hashanah, the past Rosh Hashanah, I said every night 10 minutes. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Oh, I'm so tired. He's about to fall asleep and he pushes himself to wake up and to learn those 10 minutes of Torah. Says Rav Chaim Volozhin, said Rav Eli Apiyan, said Rav Brevden, I'm repeating that same concept to you. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why, but he says the power in the Kedusha, and Rav Chaim Volozhin said it. You can go to the bank with Rav Chaim Volozhin's commitment to us. And he says that the power of Torah in 500 miles away can transfer the Kedusha, transfer that impact on the world. Where the doctor comes out and says, I don't know what happened, but you're a very proud father of a beautiful, healthy baby boy, and your wife's doing great. And he just is beyond words. He's saying, he's thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He can't possibly put the words together to say thank you. But he has no idea that the impact of those 10 minutes, 500 miles away, at that very moment when that person decided to pick his head up and actually decide to start learning, that made a difference. That changed the whole dynamic of Klal Yisrael. That's what the power of Torah is all about. And we need to know that if a Torah scholar, who is a teacher of thousands of Talmidim, who people come to for advice and for counsel, for Psak Halacha, do we know what that means to Klal Yisrael? We're not crying because Rabbi Avrohom Stulberger no longer is here, and Nebuch, an old man, he doesn't have the chance of hugging his grandchildren anymore. It's not why we cry. It's not why we walk to the funeral. It's not why we want to be part of that moment. If you're in Eretz Yisrael, you had to be there. So people wanted to be, they couldn't. I know people turned around on the highway because they couldn't get into Bnei Brak. The streets were closed. You don't want to be there because you're bemoaning the neshama who now has to go to the next world. Rabbi Avrohom Stulberger's place in Shemayim is ganz fine. We don't have to cry about his place in Shemayim. We're crying and we're recognizing this event because that luminary, that light that was in the world is no longer here. We're poorer. We're weaker. We're more impoverished. We're now looking for more places where we can find that Kedusha to help Klal Yisrael, to keep us going in the same way. Everybody say, I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but we don't know if the next Rav Steinman is sitting in this room right now. We don't know who he might be. No matter who you think you could or cannot be, you don't know yet. You're too young to know. And in my little 31 years at Valley Torah High School, I can tell you, many, many people sitting in this room or back on Ben Avenue there, who certainly were saying when they were sitting in that room, who am I? I don't know who he's talking to, but he ain't talking to me. I can tell you that they have made a difference, a significant difference in Klal Yisrael through their Torah and through their learning. And it's not to diminish the professionals that are doing an amazing leadership responsibility in their world. That's fantastic, and we have so many, Baruch Hashem. But we also have incredible Talmidei Chachamim, who are builders of schools, who are Rabbanim in shuls, who've written Svarim, who are changing the lives of people around them, because they said, you know what, maybe I should be an Ephraim. Maybe that's for me. Maybe that's my life. Because maybe they're going to challenge themselves in that way. Because Rabbi said, no matter which direction we go, we've got to push that spiritual envelope. Being a Manasseh does not mean I don't have to answer the call and making sure I'm doing the right thing. It's a different direction. But if we think we can know now whether we're Ephraim or we're Manasseh, it's a big mistake. We don't know yet. But keep it open. You got to keep that option open. You got to think about it. You got to know there's a need. And you got to know not only is there a need for Klal Yisrael to have Jewish leaders, but there's a need for Klal Yisrael to have Torah luminaries of the highest stature. And therefore, whatever we do in the realm of Torah and however we grow, that is so significant. And that's why when they later on in the Parsha and Yaakov is giving the brachas, Yisachar Chamor Gorem. There are many pshatim. What does it mean? Yisachar Chamor Gorem. What's the Chamor? What's the Gorem? What caused what? And there's one pshat that doesn't say Chamor Gorem means that the donkey causes existence. Whatever, many different pshatim, or the donkey carries the fruits. What does that mean? The donkey carries the fruits, but doesn't mean Gorem. It means Gerim. And the Medrash takes those words, Yisachar Chamor Gorem, and says that Yisachar's fruits, he was blessed with incredible fruits. And Zvulun took those fruits over to sell them because Zvulun was a businessman and Yisachar was the one learning Torah. And they've got these melons and these oranges, these apples on the ships, and they're taking them to different places. And these Gentile merchants are looking at these amazing vegetables or melons or fruits, whatever it might be, and say, "Whoa, wow, I have never seen a watermelon like this. I've never seen strawberries this beautiful and this amazing." They were literally astounding. And Zvulun says, "You think that's astounding? Do you want to know who owns these melons or where they came from? They came from a tribe called Yisachar. And Yisachar is actually right now sitting and learning Torah. And they are immersed in Torah study on a level you would not believe. They're completely enveloped by Torah. And they were zochah through their Torah study to have these kinds of fruits to be able to be sold for such a high price. And they heard that. They said, I got to find out about this. Really? The owners of these fruits are learning Torah right now? I got to find out about Torah. I got to find out about Judaism. This is incredible. And they came. And they came, and a lot of them became converts because they were so inspired by this just even notion of people learning Torah. But we think we understand how it works. We don't. And we're not going to fully understand it. Because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked into the Torah and created the world, and whatever unbelievably deep concept that is of Istakal Baraisa Bara Alma, that in the Torah comes every single secret of the universe, so there's no way we're going to fully comprehend how us knowing a Tosas deeper in Gittin is going to change the world. It is not a concept we can really fully put our teeth into. It's just not possible. For Rabbi say it's a fact. But it is a fact, an indisputable fact, that this is what makes the world go. And if, God forbid, there was a moment where every single Jew would stop learning Torah, there would be no world. We know this from many different Chazal, and that's why there are times where when everyone else was running around, there were Gedolim who said, now I'm not going to be running after Yom Kippur to eat like everybody else, because if everyone else is eating, who's going to be learning Torah? And there are yeshivas who actually have a Seder Friday afternoon, because Friday afternoon is the time where all yeshivas get let out. So they give guys off in the morning, come back in the afternoon. Because every single moment in time, there must be some Jew learning Torah somewhere. Why? What's the big deal? We don't get it. Torah is a big deal. One can say it's the only deal. It's what this entire world is predicated upon. So Bez Hashem, as we think about this incredible bracha, which we hear every single Friday night, many of us. My minhag happens to be to do it only Erev Yom Kippur, but many people have a minhag, you bless your children on Friday night. So if that's our minhag, think about those brachas. Think about those words. And at the end of the day, we have to be one of the two. We have to be either an Ephraim or we have to be a Manasseh. We have to stand for greatness in whatever endeavor, whatever area we decide to go into. We have to stand proud and tall. And if you're a Manasseh at the end of the day, that is fantastic, because we need Manassehs, and Manassehs are in the bracha. He didn't say Yisimcha Kim Ephraim. He said Yisimcha Kim Ephraim Manasseh. So we need the Manassehs, and they're great, and they're part of the bracha. But we do have to know where the crown is. We do have to know what stands at the epitome of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the fabric and the lifeblood of Klal Yisrael in its existence. To see those kids learning in some side room somewhere in Warsaw, at a time when you can't even imagine living, let alone learning. That's why we're here today, Rabbi Isai. That's why one of the, maybe arguably the greatest miracle. Because if anybody reflects on 1945 to 2017 or 18, which is about to happen, Bez Hashem, in a couple of days, we're going to switch the calendar year and say, is it possible for Klal Yisrael to have developed from that state of complete decay? You can't even find the word to describe Klal Yisrael after 6 million of our Kedoshim were taken. That we're going to rebuild? That we're going to be vibrant? That we're going to have an Eretz Yisrael that stands as a shining light to the world? That we're going to have more boys and girls learning Torah than maybe any other time in Jewish history? Could such a thing be possible? They were moving all the Sifrei Torah to the museums. That was what they were doing. So how did it all happen? So many things happened, but Torah happened. And Torah was the key. And Torah is what can never escape the grip of Klal Yisrael throughout history. And it didn't then, and that's why we were able to rebuild. So Bez Hashem, let's remember that. Let's remember that brach. Let's remember Yisocha Chamogorim, that just the knowledge of a person learning Torah can have such an impact upon a Jew. And upon a Goy. The Goyim came. They became converts. They moved closer to the Jewish people because just not the thought of, wow, people learning Torah. Rabbi said, if we can remember that, we can internalize that. At the right time, when it's time to reflect, to figure out who should we be, let's not forget this Chazal. That's Chus B'Zeh Hashem, we'll make the right decisions. Go Me'choyel Choyel. That's Chus B'Zoch, the B'Yas Mishach Mehem.